Hello, dear viewers, friends, and all of that. This is TBT here, and welcome to another ARK creature feature. The first one on Scorched Earth, by the way. And today's episode will feature a denizen of the desert, a sand shark, crocodile thing, the first Rhysuchian to be in the game, and a creature that has become a meme for how annoying it is to tame. I give you Fasolasuchus. Now, hold on a minute there, T. Didn't you say that you were doing Doedicurus before this one? Why, yes, voice in my head, I did say that. But I changed my mind because I think this creature needs a guide far more than the Doedicurus does. I will still be making that video, though, don't get me wrong. Anyway, for those of you that are new to this series, this is where I'll be covering the creature's base stats, abilities, where to find, how to tame them, and ways you can use them to improve your experience in ARK Survival Ascended. I'll also be talking about my opinions on ARK's take of this creature and give it a final score based on all these categories from 1 to 10. Remember, the Fasolasuchus is not the historical fossilized one in real life. This is a species created and modeled after it in-universe. At best, it would be an artificial evolution, so comparing the two apart from in-game abilities representing something the real-life creature had makes no sense, and I'll avoid that. Before we get any further, if you enjoy this content, go ahead and give this video a like, be sure to comment, and stomp that subscribe button to please the algorithm gods and spread this video around the platform. It helps a lot, and I greatly appreciate the support. Alrighty, now that we've taken care of that, let's dive in. Stats. Alright, as you're about to see, this is definitely one of those creatures that you absolutely should tame. Provided you can be bothered to go through its taming method. You want to see what I mean? Well, let's check out these numbers here. I'll give you guys a moment, a few seconds to just, like, look at that and process it. So as you can see, the stats are pretty nice. They're not the best compared to something like the Acrocanthosaurus, but they're still pretty good. And remember, when we're talking about numbers, I'm referring to just the level 1 base stats of the creature. You're going to be running into Fasos that are a lot higher leveled and therefore stronger, and with the additions and multiplications on them. And it's important to remember that the levels randomly allocate each stat increase. We use level 1 mostly to understand how much base damage the Acro's attack should be doing before additive levels into melee percentage and resistances are factored in. Abilities. Okay, so this guy has a whole range of crazy sand and swimming related abilities. Just as an aside, the real-life version was related to both dinosaurs and crocodiles, but spent nearly all of its time on land. It probably didn't swim in sand or otherwise much. But yeah, I'm just gonna throw these up on the screen and let y'all take a look at them, and then we're kind of going to talk about that, because there's a lot of utility here, and I don't think I'd be the one to cover exactly how this would work, but there are some actives and passives. So, here we go. So, now we've got something to talk about here. The main thing to note is the acid debuff, which is labeled as an unnamed debuff, but, and basically, as discussed, what that does is, or as shown, that results in that can result from the bite attack or from taking damage by any creature dealing you a melee attack. And it stacks up to 10 times, it lasts 10 seconds, that timer is reset with every time you bite the enemy. And with each stack, it's 2.5% damage increase. So damage taken. Which means that can go up to a 25% damage increase, and that is insane. That is craziness. Honestly, another thing to note, it again says it on the chart, but the tail sand can cause, basically pocket sand, can cause things to run away from you. It can also stop tame creatures from attacking you for 10 seconds. It has a cooldown of 30 seconds. But, yeah, I think the main thing, the main gimmick of this creature in combat is going to be the acidic ability. Because the ability to increase damage taken means this guy has a help, can be of use against virtually anything by causing whatever it is to take more damage from anything else attacking it. I do not know if this will work on bosses, by the way. But, yeah. Oh, as another ability this guy has, he does gather flint whenever he hits a rock. So we can bear that in mind as well. See, as far as his abilities go, I really like the whole sand theme here. He's got some cool debuffs. It's also worth noting, you know, he's got the sandstorm as well, and that I think has a lot of utility against large creatures, especially when you use the quicksand effect with it, which will cause them to sink into the ground and then take a boatload of damage depending on their HP and drag weight. So yeah, I think this thing has a lot of utility, both in PvE and PvP, and as such, I would say definitely got the combat down. What little it lacks in outright damage output, I think it more than makes up for in its versatility and its utility. Alrighty, moving on. Alrighty, where do you find one of these things now that you're looking to tame one of them for yourself? Well, I'm not going to throw up a map that shows you their range and just going to tell you that you will find them only on Scorched Earth and you will find them in any of the dunes sections. So the nice big juicy circle, like juicy dune territory outlining the map is where you're going to find this creature. They are fairly common, so you should run into them quite frequently. Just be on the lookout, especially if you have my luck, you're probably going to run into deathworms too, and you will know the difference when they're moving, because the deathworm does not have any part of it sticking above the ground until it attacks you, whereas the Fasolasuchus does. So, yeah, just bear that in mind, and have yourself good hunting, gentlemen. And now on to the part that makes me double facepalm. Ugh. Alrighty, and now for my expert advice on how to tame this creature. Well, if you're looking to acquire your very own Fasolasuchus, my recommendation is to bug your buddy or your tribe mate that's better at the game than you or has more free time on his or her hands, and get them to give you a few of their bred eggs. That's it. Okay, I'm exaggerating a bit, but honestly, this thing's taming method is... well, it would and can be fun if everything goes the right way. The problem is, it doesn't really take into account things not going the right way, in my opinion, and I'll explain that in a bit. To tame this creature, you need to bring along some explosives. Grenades, C4, and rocket launchers will all do just fine. You'll be looking for a mound of sand similar to the mound of dirt where Perlovia's hide. You have probably just seen that already, and will see it again here in this clip. If you find that, or a Faso that burrows in and just creates one, yeah, once they burrow down, if there's nothing to aggro them, they'll just sit there and then make one. Go ahead and get off of your mount and toss a bomb onto or near that mound. Let it detonate, like so. And you will see the Fasolasuchus come out of the sand, dizzy as hell, and probably suffering an extreme case of tinnitus. What you need to do is you need to run right up to it fast and click E, and you'll mount onto it. You'll grab one of the spines. The following mini-game that plays out is very much like, well, not very much, but a bit like the Equus and Antrusarchus, in that you have to ride the thing around. However, the big difference is that you're not feeding it or doing anything to make it like you. You're making it run into things. What things? Metal, salt, crystal, obsidian, and rocks. Rocks, but not for the reason you might think, mind you. See, when you're taming this thing, there are two bars to consider. The first one is the control bar. The name of the game here is to keep this bar from running out. If it does, you'll be dismounted, and the Fasolasuchus will attack you. That is very understandable, since you are trying to make it crash into objects head first and hurt itself until it falls unconscious. Yeah. I highly recommend that you have an RG follow you and on passive in case you do get dismounted, so you can quickly hop on and get away. It'll be able to keep up with you, don't worry. You won't have to worry about things aggroing onto the Faso or until you've been dismounted or finish knocking it out. Be careful, though, as they can still aggro onto your tame if you have one, and I highly recommend that you do. Crashing into ruins, going over ledges that are too big, or letting the bar run out will all have that effect, by the way. You'll get dismounted, and the thing will immediately attack you. If that happens, once you've gotten to safety, you're going to either need to reload the game or get out of render distance from the Fasolasuchus and get it to calm down and burrow again. Then just repeat the process. However, hitting any of the resources that I mentioned or a rock will reset your control bar back to full. But it will also start raising that torpor meter, which is the second bar we're going to talk about. This is where things get tricky. Whenever you hit a breakable resource node, except for trees, cacti, little bushes and whatever, the Faso's control bar goes back up to full, but it will veer away on its own for 4 seconds. Any object that it hits during this will reset that timer and keep it going every which way. But, and for me, this, plus the fact that sometimes tiny ledges will dismount you as well as hitting permanent structures, is the most frustrating thing about this tame. And there's not a whole lot you can do about it, and that's by design. And we'll get into why this actually is a problem, even though it's definitely intentional. Now, rocks, normal rocks, do nothing for your torque. Well, not nothing. They give you a little bit. But it's best to only use them to keep your control bar full. If you're looking, what you're actually looking to hit are salt nodes and metal, because they'll be the easiest to find based on where you are. These are the best for raising this thing's torpor. Bones, by the way, also work. I use them a lot, too. My issue with this taming method is that these things don't give enough torpor for how much you actually need. They're better than rocks by a huge margin, but they're still not amazing. So it's going to be a pain in the ass to tame one of these things, and it will take a lot of your time, especially if you've never done it before. This also means that you're probably going to get dismounted at least a couple of times when the control bar runs out. My advice is that when this happens, keep a level head, get on that RG, and fly away as mentioned. The Faso's torpor depletes very slowly, so you won't lose much between attempts, thankfully. When that torpor bar fills up completely, the Faso will emerge from the ground one final time and collapse. Congrats, you've done it! Once the creature is out, it will take exceptional kibble, the yellow tier kibble, as its favorite food, followed by raw mutton and prime meat. Now, just do this as you would. Just do as you would for any KO'd creature. Protect it while it tames up. Narcotics shouldn't be needed depending on your taming settings to keep it down, since again the torpor drains pretty slowly and its food actually drains pretty quickly. So, with all that being said, and the fact that this can be a fun taming method when it works properly, my big question here is, why though? Why are we back at another knockout tame again, especially with this rather violent, though admittedly funny, taming method? It seemed like Wildcard was veering away from the traditional knockout tames in favor of more creative passive tames. I mean, maybe that's just me. And this is a creative taming method, and if absolutely everything goes correctly, as I said, it can be fun and even relaxing. But why knockout again? Also, the fact that everything must go perfectly in a game where that almost never happens due to buggy mechanics, that is a problem for me. Then again, it could just be that I suck at it. Probably a mix of both. Alrighty, let's say you've tamed one of these, right? What do you do with them? Well, you do a whole lot of things. Firstly, you breed them so you don't have to do it again. Secondly, you they're great at killing things, harvesting flint, and just getting around the map with their tunneling abilities. So overall, very good creature. I think their quicksand and sandstorm abilities have a lot of utility in PvP. But somebody who actually plays PvP, because I don't, will feel free to correct me on that one. But, yeah. I also think their tail slap, while useful, isn't nearly as good as it could be. It's still something. But yeah, overall, very very great creature, decent stats, and great versatility as well as utility. And for this reason, I think that this thing has a whole lot of potential. I just wish it could collect sand, because it's swimming through sand. Come on now. Ah, well. Anyway, moving on. Okay. Now for the part that most of you have probably been waiting for. Ratings. And I gotta say, this is one of the toughest creatures that I've ever had to do this for. It's just, there's so much that it does. And that's... it's got a lot going for it, but there's a couple of things that really hold it back. Like I said, the fact that you need perfect conditions to enjoy taming this thing is a problem. It could be fun, and my solution would be to just up the amount of torpor by that it gets when it crashes into salt, metal, obsidian, and crystal. I would give it that. That's it. All it needs. I'm not a huge fan of another knockout tame like this, but that's just me. And it does affect my final score, since it is based partially on my opinion. And for this reason, I think this guy earns 7 sandstorms out of 10. Very good creature. It's got a lot of things under the hood that hold it back, but I definitely recommend getting one. Once you have it, you will not regret it. Alrighty, that covers just about everything. I hope you enjoyed this creature feature showcasing the Mighty Fasolasuchus. And if you did so, and found it useful, do me a solid, hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and please the algorithm god so that this video spreads across the platform. I greatly appreciate it, and it helps out around here. Just as an aside, I will be going over more modded creatures as well if I like that mod. Anyway, this has been TBT. I'm signing out, and I'll catch you on the next episode of ARK Creature Feature.